welcome to the podcast. Super excited for you to meet today's guest, Jacqueline Dillard, APR. She is the Director of Communications for the Butte County Office of Education out in California. And we're going to talk a lot about social media today. Surprise, it's the Mastering Social Media for Schools podcast. She has been storytelling with schools since 2018, and she just recently went through her APR process and did a project on creating a strategic social media plan. So really putting some strategy behind the storytelling. And guess what? She is sharing her plan with you that you can fill out for yourself and evaluate what's working and not working for your school district or school. So this is really awesome. You're going to want to listen. She's going to explain kind of how to use the tool. And then we're also going to dive into a little bit of the training that she provides. And definitely, if you have to provide training for some of your folks within your school district, you'll want to listen into how they are doing that. She just has a lot of great nuggets. So I'm so excited for you to meet Jacqueline today. And just a quick reminder, you guys, my book is out and it's selling like hotcakes. I cannot believe it. My book is called Social Media for Schools, Proven Storytelling Strategies and Ideas to Celebrate Your Students and Staff while keeping your sanity. You know, I've been doing social media for 9 years now. This is the first time that I put everything together in one little manual, in a guide that is going to help you and your school or your district, whether you're a charter school, public school, private school. One review, John Casper, he's the communications coordinator out of Winona area public schools in Minnesota. His review says, like everything else that Andrea does, social media for schools is engaging, encouraging, and essential for any school communicator. It doesn't matter if you are new to the profession or still remember how to work the fax machine. You will find something in this book that will help you celebrate your students and staff, connect with your community, and have a positive impact on school climate. Thank you so much for your review, John. And you guys, if you have not ordered your copy, head on over to socialschoolforedu.com now, grab your copy. Bulk ordering is available. So if you want to order more than 10 copies and save a little bit of money, you can do that. Just check out the website. You'll have all the instructions there. Now let's get to this week's fun little K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip is all about your retirees. Are there any of your staff members, teachers, leadership, paraprofessionals, is anybody retiring this year? We would love to celebrate those people on social media. Of course, your first step should be asking them if you can, because some people are private and they don't want to be celebrated. But if they are okay with it, you can do a simple post thanking them for all their years of service. You can go in and interview them and do either a video or a post with a bunch of words and content that you write out. You can have some flashback pictures to maybe when they first started. And if you want to keep it super simple without any pictures, you can just honor the names of people that are retiring at the end of the school year. There's a lot of ways to do it, but just want to put that on your radar in addition to everything else that you're celebrating this time of year. Don't forget about those retirees. Now let's get to this week's interview with Jacqueline Dillard. Hello, Jacqueline Dillard. APR is in the house. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm in California and we actually have some sunshine today, so I'm doing
Oh my
good.
gosh. Well, I'm in Wisconsin and we're recording this at the end of March and I've got sunshine too, but I've got a lot of snow out here that needs to melt and it just won't get warm, but that's what I get for choosing to live here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just what it's about. So Jacqueline, so nice to meet you, virtually right now. I'd love if you could share some of your background and then your role as the Director of Communications there for Butte County Office of Education.
Yeah. I guess I should say my school communications background started in 2018.
Okay.
Prior to that, I did marketing communications for a couple of private industry companies. But I got into school PR in 2018, about a year after my daughter was born. And it was in a small single school district / county office of education in Northern California. And I was there until about July 2020. And then I thought picking up my family and moving during a pandemic would be a great idea. Yeah. And actually it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made for my career. I joined the Butte County Office of Education as the communications officer that July. And then I've been there since, and I recently earned my APR and moved into the director of communications role.
Okay, awesome. So, relatively short amount of time so far in school communications, although nobody would say that after 2020 because we all became professionals really, really quick. But that's great. And how many years were you in the private sector before you got into schools?
Oh gosh, since 2014.
Okay.
So about 4 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I bet you love bringing some of that private sector, like the work world into schools, right?
Yeah. No, it was great. I loved being able to tell the story about an organization I was passionate about, sharing what's happening in classrooms, what's happening with the students, the children, and what are we doing to benefit them.
Yeah.
So
I remember just when I was in corporate America, I got laid off back in 2013, and that's why I'm here today because of that layoff. So I'm very thankful for it. But you know what we made, Jacqueline? We made window screens. So I was like, maybe I am saving people from malaria. Like, and I was in product marketing as well. So you're like trying to really think about, okay, how can I get passionate about what I'm working on and what I'm promoting? Well, that is not hard to do when you're in schools, right?
it really isn't. I mean, you spend 5 minutes in a classroom and you see their faces light up. It's truly amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just another good reminder. We're getting towards the end of the school year. If you're getting stressed out, get into a classroom and it'll instantly boost, all of the feels and re-energize you for the important work you're doing. So for the County Office of Education, your role now differs a little bit from working directly in a school. So kind of talk to me about how social media fits in your role and kind of your role specifically of what you're doing in your position.
Yeah, so we definitely use social media to tell our story. In fact, there's actually been a big shift recently in getting more of our story out. But the other thing that we do is we also help elevate our school districts and our charter schools because we offer them supports. So, along with telling BCOE's story, I'm also taking time to make sure that we're sharing school district stories and charter school stories on our pages as well. Not only does that help elevate them, but it also helps our engagement rates as well. So keeping that in mind, there's always a purpose to it. Um, but in addition to just, managing social media pages, I also help a lot of our BCOE programs. We have our programs and our school sites have their own social pages. And so I'm in the process of making sure all of them are registered, that we've got backup admins on all of our pages so we don't lose all of that hard work that they've done. And then also offering them support in, hey, I'm facing this issue, or hey, can you help me look at planning how to boost my engagement? Do we need to boost our own enrollment? So really looking at those and being strategic with what we're posting across all of our platforms. And then I also offer those services, those training opportunities to our districts and charter schools as well.
Okay. So how many schools and districts and charter schools do you serve there in your office?
I want to say we've got 14 districts now, and 18 charter schools. We had another one open up recently. And then we've got, oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot and I'm nervous.
That's
I'm
okay.
going to pull it up so I don't give you wrong
Right.
information. We've got 1, 2, not including all of our community preschools that we also operate. 3, 4, 5, 6 actual BCOE schools. And
Okay.
again, it doesn't include all of our preschool sites.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So you get to be a little bit of what I do, and you're helping a lot of different schools, kind of navigate social media, get it set up right. And a lot of our listeners, Jacqueline, are one person shops. So, and what you reached out and we kind of chatted about, hey, we need to get this story out there because you recently created kind of a strategic social media plan that works well for one person shops. So tell me about that plan and share all the details you can.
Yeah. So I used to be a one-person shop. In fact, I'm kind of in this weird little limbo phase where I was able to add on a full-time person, but they work 100% of the time for one of our programs because they needed that much assistance in communications. So technically, nothing's been taken off of my plate. So I still operate very similarly to a one-person shop, especially when it comes to social media. So with that in mind, when I was starting my APR journey, I was looking for a project that I could really be passionate about and talking about. And so I came up with a plan on how to be more strategic with my social media posting. And what that looks like is really, I just used the scientific method. Was like, I think this will work. Here's my hypothesis. Let's go test it. And then that evaluation piece came into play. What's actually working? Are we reaching our target audience? Is our target audience actually defined correctly? And so I put it all into a document and a spreadsheet so that I could then go and report on it to my cabinet team. And so I'm happy to share that. But what it basically is just a written plan of who are we trying to target? Here's our target audience. What's our goal? Are we trying to boost our follower numbers? Are we trying to boost engagement, which should be your number one, in my opinion? What is your goal? Are you trying to boost enrollment by attracting more families? So pick that goal and then look at what you've been doing, pull up that data, look at what's been working, look at some of those posts that haven't been working and try to figure out why. And then from there, come up with a plan on, hey, looks like our posts with photos of students or photos of our actual staff, they're getting the most engagement. We need to do more of that. And then in addition, pull in planning from, okay, well, these are all of the events that are going to be happening throughout the school day or school year. And then on top of that, these are all the days of recognition that we honor. These are all of the important holidays. How can we weave them together to tell our story? And in addition, meet that goal of boosting enrollment or boosting engagement, getting our story out there to our target audience because they're the ones that matter.
Right.
So it's basically a fillable form that these one-person shops can easily complete. And then it also walks them through that evaluation process. So they're not sitting there trying to come up with it themselves. They're not trying to also come up with ideas for how to post. That's all kind of filled in for them. And then they can adjust it based on what their data is showing.
Okay. So you're going to share this with everybody? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's going to be in the show notes, you guys. I'll link to all Jacqueline's hard work. And believe me, APR is not for the faint of heart. It is a very strenuous process, but I love it. So I've got a question for you. When you did this on your, like a page, was it for a school or was it for your Office of Education?
Great question. It was for our county office of education. And I felt like I was really starting right at the beginning. We had a couple of pages. I actually set up an Instagram page, but we had Facebook and Twitter, but they weren't very active. And they were more sharing. And so I really looked at how do we just boost our engagement to begin with. So I started sharing more, but I also started creating posts for us to share. And some of them weave in our own BCOE story, which is it differs. County Office of Education differs from a school district. So I wove those in, but I also did things that were just fun. So like a fun fact Friday, here's a random fact. Let's boost that engagement and start attracting people. And what I did is it's a multi-year plan in my head. And now it's more of, okay, now that we've gained a bigger following, now that we've boosted our engagement rates, now let's start weaving in more of our story. So those fun fact Fridays that used to be a little bit more random, a little bit just more, hey, come look at this, it's fun, follow us, engage with us. Now we're weaving in more of, hey, did you know this about our organization? Fun fact Friday. Here's another throwback Thursday. Here's our team member Tuesday to highlight our partners in our community. So we're doing more of that and we're building. And I see that continuing to build throughout the next 5 years and further on.
So this is a great episode for one-person shops that work for schools, but it's also really important for any BOCES or ESCs, or like in Wisconsin, they're called CISAs. So these more cooperative agencies that serve a lot of different schools. It's more challenging, Jacqueline, for you to get engagement versus a school, and you know that.
Yep.
And I know that too. Like my business, if I could get the engagement and reach that a school gets, I'd be like dancing right now if I could get that much reach. But it is possible. So we're going to make sure to link your social channels for the Butte County Office of Education so that you can get some ideas around those features that you just shared, Team Member Tuesday and a Throwback Thursday and a Fun Fact Friday. That helps build in stories. You're being strategic about the wording that you're using, the stories that you're telling. And then you're also sharing some great stories from your schools that you serve, and those engage well as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, some of our highest engagement posts are actually ones that we've shared, especially around this time of year where we're gearing up we've got our high schools gearing up for prom and then graduations, promotions. When we share those, people engage more and then they end up following us and then we can engage with them again and again.
Yeah. So I like that you talk about, what's your goal of social media? Now we do social media management at Social School for EDU for about 85 school districts across the country. And often when I'm talking with them, it's kind of like, what's your strategy? Usually they don't have one, right? Because it's haphazard and, they don't even know who's posting or whatever. And
Yeah.
then what are your goals? And, I think number one is that community engagement piece as far as reaching as many people as you can and getting that story out there. But of course, there are other things like boosting enrollment, like employee or student morale, referendum, bond, levy, whatever you do. Those are also can have an impact. But ultimately, it's those eyeballs that can see your content. I mean, my little school district has 300 kids, but every week we're reaching 5,000 people with those stories. That's powerful metrics just there, right there, right?
Absolutely. 100%, especially for school districts. You talked about bond measures. If you know that you're going to need to try and pass a bond, even 5 years out, start telling those stories now. Get that engagement now so that when you turn around and you say, hey, we need you to pay more tax dollars, they already have a good, fuzzy, warm feeling from seeing the stories that you're telling for the past few years.
Yeah. And I was just talking with somebody yesterday in a really small community here in Wisconsin. And he's like, I live in a town 10 minutes over. It's a principal. I live in the town 10 minutes over. We have a super small school. They're even smaller than us. So they might have 250 kids. He's like, those people over in that community are seeing what we're doing in our school district because we are consistently telling that story. And, a bigger district that, has more students and a bigger community, if they're not using social media, their community is not seeing that, right?
Yeah. I love too what you said. You use the word consistent. They're consistently seeing. And consistency that's actually one of the things that I struggle with even now, but using a plan and getting things set up ahead of time has really helped that. And then one of the other outcomes from putting this plan into place was that my admin team could see the benefit. It wasn't just, oh, post this randomly and, kind of sporadically. It was, no, there's a plan. And if you want your school site or your program to be highlighted, I'm going to need to know 3 weeks in advance. So it's on the calendar. And then I'm going to show up with the right equipment. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting those student release forms ahead of time. And I know who I can photograph and I know who I can take videos of. And then I'm going to put it together quickly afterwards. So I've not only blocked off the day of the event, I've blocked off a few hours the next day so that I can put that content together and share it quickly. Okay.
Yeah.
So that plan is part of what helps, especially with those smaller one-person offices, is you can start building that out And then you can also put it out to your admins, school site admins, your school site secretaries, and say, hey, here's my calendar plan for social media for the next couple of months. I need that info for what's coming now so that I can make sure you're highlighted.
Right. Because by the way, if you're a one person shop, you don't only get to do social media. You have a lot of other responsibilities, so you have to fit those things in. So it really sounds like you've thought of everything. I really want to urge everybody to go to the show notes, check out the plan. Sounds like you can fill it out. I call it fill outable or something like that. It's a made up word.
Yeah.
It's my vocabulary, my Wisconsin vocabulary, but so that it's very user friendly. So check that out. Now you're also responsible for training a lot of school districts. So tell me a little bit about your training.
Yeah, this was actually very exciting. I say we because we have an educational technology program. And so we've got two teachers, I'll say, within that ed tech program, and they really focus on offering like Google Classroom services to our charters and districts as well. And we actually teamed up, and last August, so August, oh gosh, 2022, we offered a full day training for our districts and charter schools to attend called Master the Metaverse. And I'm going to do a shameless plug. We're offering a session like this at Inspira this year for 1 hour. So check it
Awesome.
out. But we did this full day training for our districts and charter schools. And then from there, we actually realized this would be better split up into smaller, shorter sessions per platform. So we took it and we split it up into Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as Meta, YouTube, strategic planning, and then also creating content. So using Canva or other means to create those images and brand them to your organization. So
Okay.
we split that up about over, I want to say 8 to 9 weeks. And we offered that training. And it was really great to be able to team up with our ed tech team because, again, one person doing a lot more than social media. So having that support was great. But yeah, that is something that I hope to be able to continue doing. This was the first time we offered a like 8 to 10 weeks session or ongoing sessions for training purposes. And we're looking at doing it again next fall after people return from summer break and we can dive back into it again. But we had a pretty good turnout for it being the first time. We had about 15 people per session, and they were pretty regular. Like we had the same 15 people per session. And following that, we actually saw a couple of school districts get their social media pages up and running, and we've seen more regular posts from them. So that's also very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, training is great, but if they can't take action, it's no good. Now, did you do that training in person or was that via like Zoom or something like that?
We did it via Zoom. We actually did a survey. We sent it out to all of our district and charter school admins and said, we want to offer this in person. That was our preference, but it actually came back that only 1 or 2 people would be able to make it because they're so widespread that traveling, once a week to come in for an hour, hour and a half training just wasn't feasible. So we did do it via Zoom. And then I can't say for sure, but I'm hoping we'll be able to offer it to not just Butte County school districts and charter schools, but more widely based via Zoom as well in the future.
Yeah, why not? If you're holding it. Did you record it as well so they could refer back to it afterwards?
We did, and we
Okay.
shared those recordings with them. We also sent out feedback surveys on how we can improve for future sessions. We're still gathering that information right now, but of course, looking at the data, seeing what we can do better and what worked, that's also a big part of what we do.
Yeah, Jacqueline is really trained in her APR because we're all about the data, and I love that. So I mean I imagine the one day was awesome, but it can be overload, right? I mean, like there's no way. That's why I just got done writing a book, and I don't even know where my book's at right now, but it's thick. it is a thick book because there's a lot to cover when you're talking about social media. And I don't even in the book, I don't even get into the how-tos of
Mhm.
each individual platform because if I did, I'd have to rewrite the book every day. And I got better things to do than that. But I'm sure you found probably the retention and then just people being able to take advantage of the training. It was better when you separated it out.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. We actually had people leave that full day training because something else came up, another priority comes across the desk and you have to go pick that up.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we definitely saw a better outcome with splitting it up into shorter, smaller, bite-size trainings.
Yes, absolutely. And each time they're going to learn a little bit and then a little bit more. And I always tell when I talk to people, I'm like, you don't have to compare yourself to some other school that's been doing social media for 7 years and they've got, all these followers and all these engagements. It's like you just have to focus on like what does my school really need? Like do I really want an Instagram page or am I still struggling with just doing Facebook?
Mhm.
If I'm just struggling with content for Facebook, then I probably shouldn't worry about Instagram right now. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give the listeners out there if you're new or even if you're a few years in, don't get overwhelmed and thinking like, oh my gosh, I got to do it all at once because guess what? It's not going to work. You just can't do it all. So just focus on the next step, learn what you can, and it's awesome that and if you're not in Butte County Office of Education but you're somewhere else, reach out to your offices, your CISAs or your BOCES, because they probably have somebody that has support that is seeing what a lot of different schools are doing. They can help you. Of course, the free content over at Social School Free EDU can help as well, but um I love that you kind of broke that down. Is there anything else about the training, kind of lessons learned from that that you'd want to share with our listeners?
I would say I want to go back to that initial survey we did to determine who would be attending, who was our target audience, because at first we thought it would be assigned communication people or assigned school, like this secretarial school administrators. That's who we were targeting. And it turns out that within our school districts, a lot of those, especially the high schools, I mean, they've got people that are running the social media pages that are actually teachers and they're doing it in their off hours or coaches. And we weren't reaching out to them. So that's another area I'd say really look at who you're trying to reach and who's out there already trying to do it
Right.
um, in regards to training, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we kind of wrap up, what would be your best social media tip?
Oh, don't be afraid to use it. And I say that because I've heard that so many times. And it to me, I'm gonna tell a funny story. My very first interview getting into school PR, I was sitting at the table with the cabinet team that was interviewing me. And one of the questions was, do you have experience with social media? And I just looked at them and they were all maybe, 15, 20 years older than me. And I was like, well, I'm a millennial. Like that was my answer. I got the job, but I realized like, we've still got a lot of people out there that just don't fully understand how powerful social media is. And they might be a little timid or scared by it. So don't. I love what you said. Focus on one thing that you can do. If it's just one platform, focus on that, build that up. Don't compare yourself to these macro influencers out there. Do what you can to share your organization's story and don't be afraid of putting it out there.
Yeah, and you're going to make a mistake.
Oh yeah.
I share mine all the time. I mean, it is that you're out there for everybody to view. Your wording and obviously we're with education schools. We want to sound very intelligent and use the proper spelling and grammar and all of those things, which that is a good thing with Grammarly and some of the AI that is out there that helps us sound great. But you're going to make mistakes and that's okay. Like you just have to embrace that, but there's no way that you can get better unless you start. And
Ex-
so, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. So, Jacqueline, now you got some new friends out here. What is the best way to stay connected to you?
Okay, so to me personally, I'd say email.
Okay.
It's J Dillard, Dillard, at B as in boy, COE.org.
Awesome. I will do that. And then we've got all of your things listed, the social platforms for your Office of Education on the show notes. I really appreciate you sharing everything with our listeners today. I can tell that you get it and you've been in the trenches. You're sharing what works best. And that's what we all want to do. We want to help other schools be able to amplify their story as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And everybody, we'll be back next week with another great guest. And until then, you keep telling those stories. Bye bye.